Good evening and welcome to the December 2nd meeting of 2013 of the Park and Rec Commission. Initially, what I'm going to do is make some agenda changes so that we can get to the public and some requests to be handled tonight. So there's under item 7, new business, the 7A, Lacrosse Club request to name field at Nut Plains Park, Bob McHenry Field. We're going to move that up to right below public forum. And in addition to that, we have a Boy Scout here tonight who's going to quickly run through his plans for making improvements at, what was it again?
Chittenden Park.
And
Landscape.
you'll go right after the Lacrosse gentleman, so you don't have to spend your evening here. You go and get your homework done. That's what Mr. Macenti says every day. Make sure you get your homework. Okay, meeting call to order. I'm going to read some correspondence first with respect to the letters that we've gotten from the Lacrosse Club and Gary, and then everybody will know where we stand. And I'll leave some of the other correspondence till later on. I have a document here from Gary to Rick with subject Bob McHenry Field. This is a second level request, so I'm going to skip forward to the first part of the letter. Same from Gary to Rick, carbon copy to Greg Ferrara and Bob Tepley. Rick, as we have discussed before, the Guilford Youth Lacrosse Association has raised funds for a scoreboard in memory of Bob McHenry. In their name, I am formally requesting approval from your commission. Attached is the proposed location and specs for the scoreboard. All cost of installation and continuing maintenance will be borne by the club. There may be a minimal ongoing charge from CL&P for the electrical hookup. If this is billed to the town, PR in parentheses, the Guilford Youth Lacrosse Association will arrange for reimbursement as appropriate. As I think you know, Bob was a former Yale Lax coach, a referee of football, basketball, and lacrosse at many levels, and the timer for the Guilford High School lacrosse games. He was active in many Guilford sports. All of his kids were Guilford High School athletes, and Bob was a frequent spectator at Guilford High School in his later years. I would be happy to provide you with more information if you need it and present it at your commission meeting if appropriate. That was followed up by another request. The second level of the request is to name the field that youth lacrosse uses as Bob McHenry Field. Excuse me. Obviously, the scoreboard request stands on its own, but if we can designate the field, it might change the wording on the scoreboard, so it would be beneficial to do them simultaneously. Please review both and call me Wednesday in the AM, and Mr. Tepley and I will be attending the next business meeting. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with the facility. We do have a picture here that was sent along that you may want to take a look at if you have it in your package. With that, Bob, Gary, feel free.
Yes.
Yeah, so this way Shannon can get you on film.
Thank you. First of all, with regard to the first request, Rick and I went back over the minutes and gathered that you actually approved the scoreboard. So the first memo contained a lot of the information, and we certainly appreciate that. Rick and I were out there today with Tony. We reviewed the space where it would go. And we've talked to, we will cover getting the site plan rewritten, and we'll cover the location of that and so on. Because we have to order the scoreboard this month in order to have it, in order to install it in the spring, we came down to, are we going to get the naming issue resolved? And so the request really is, can we name the youth lacrosse field, the Bob McHenry Field, for all the reasons that we requested the change in the scoreboard. Bob was a pretty prominent figure in all kinds of sports around here. I mean, I'd get a call after he could no longer ref, and I'm going to the baseball game. You want to come? I mean, he just loved kids. He loved people. He was a very positive force in whatever he did, and we all think it's appropriate to name the field Bob McHenry Field.
My association with Bob actually was just purely in lacrosse. When my son's now a sophomore in high school, and when he was a bantam, a lightning player. You know, Bob was one of the staple refs that were at his games all the time, and he would teach the kids. It was a great influence on many of the kids that are now in high school, and obviously earlier than that as well. So our board would very much like to name the field after him as well.
Okay, as you both are aware, I'm sure I was personal friends with Bob, myself, and certainly have no qualms with the qualifications that he brought to the table to have something, if a scoreboard at least, and a field named after him. The issue I think that we have is, believe it or not, is that field already has a name. It was named, and Rick and I have had this discussion earlier today, and I'm just gonna give the facts, and then I'll let other people on the commission offer their, I certainly, and I don't think the commission has any problem at all with a scoreboard with a name on it, just as long as it doesn't contain any advertising, because we kind of have the same rules that some of the other sports. One of the other alternatives I talked to about, since there was a name previously associated, that doesn't mean we can't, if the commission decides to do that, maintain both names in some way, shape, or form. Hyphenate it, slash it, whatever. Okay, so that's just where we're at. We're discussing a scoreboard and/or field name change. Jenny, I'm sorry, at where the lacrosse field is played in memory of Bob McHenry. I don't know if you knew Bob, I think you did. So, my piece being said, I'd like to get some input from any of the members of the board.
What is the current name and what's the genesis of that?
That used to be, years ago, huh?
No, go ahead.
No, good.
No, Depkin Field.
Right. It's currently named Depkin Field. It was named after, it used to be a softball field,
Okay.
and softball was played there. The individual that the field was named after was active in adult softball through Park and Rec throughout town, beside playing, umpiring, and everything else. Similar to what, Bob did for the youth sports in town with Little League and stuff like that. He had an event, and he lost his life at that location. So over a period of time, at the request of the community and family members, that field, this goes way back, was named after him. So that's the current origins of what the name as it sits today.
And I think, Barb, the backstop used to be, I think it said Depkin Field on the backstop. When we converted that to a lacrosse field, I'm guessing 12 years ago, the backstop was taken down, there was no sign reinstalled or anything. And, it's become a lacrosse complex for probably the last 12 years or so.
Is there another softball field that could be named the Depkin softball field? An appropriate backstop indicated and continuing to honor that person?
Well, the only softball.
Since it's a lacrosse and you're honoring a lacrosse?
Yeah. The only softball field we have now is at Bittner, and that's the Cash Mitchell field. It's the only current softball
Plus, there
field.
was a tie to that field, being that that's where
Well,
the
yes.
event took
Yeah,
place.
you see,
That location was tied into
the only
that
real
person.
issue I have is, if you listen to what we just said, is it was a softball field years ago. It became a lacrosse field. Not to imply that anything's gonna happen in the future, but that might not be a lacrosse field 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So, but I certainly don't have a problem, if we don't have another location, because if we decide that we want to do something along those lines, and I think we're looking for an answer tonight because they want to go out and get the scoreboard off it, so they'll have it in place for the upcoming season. Making a combo name, it doesn't matter to me. Just a thought.
The softball field doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's completely gone. The only thing that's left is the outfield fence, which is used as a perimeter fence between the woods and the field itself. Softball hasn't played there for 15, 16 years at least, because as the town shrank in the number of teams, that field became expendable and it was converted over to other youth activities, which are now on the rise as compared to softball on the decline. I don't have any problem to just keeping the name or even renaming it to for the active use of the field that it is right now. Because I realized that the Depkin Field we didn't even use Depkin Field when we were doing a signing years ago. There was always Nut Plains Park. is where people used to go. And even Nut Plains Park is significantly changed over the years than when that field was in, because that field where the parking is, that was all weeds and it was overgrown and it was unusable. So whatever Parks and Recs has done now in the last, over the years, has changed the complete character of that field, away from softball to where it is now a genuine lacrosse center. And I don't have any problem just rededicating the field as Bob McHenry Field.
So let me just clarify. So right now, it currently is named.
Yes.
But there's no recognition of the name anywhere within.
But that's-
There used to be a sign.
But that's our fault that the sign came down, that the
So
sign
that
should
is
be
still
replaced.
not-
It is named for
It is
someone.
currently named. So, I would give pause for stripping a name and renaming. I think I would like to question what our procedure is for that. I know that when we went through the naming process and we actually put a policy into place a few years ago around that.
It's here.
It's here.
If we are going to go into the practice of renaming, we should probably do that at a policy level first, and then have a robust conversation around that. I think there's some significance whenever we've decided, and obviously that was before my time that we named it, but whenever we've gone the process of naming anything in our town after something, there's obviously it has some meaning and some significance that we decided to do that, and so for us to take a name away and put a new name feels, I think, I would want to have some sound rationale as to why we did it.
I agree with you.
And I just think we should do it at a procedural level and look at a policy. And so I think it's, we also want to consider how do we name, a field for Bob McHenry. I think we need to consider that. And so I just want to be mindful of that. It's kind of delicate.
Yeah.
And so I want to be mindful about how we do that.
I
think
also, I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
in a town that's rich in history and tradition, I just wouldn't want to see a long-standing tradition be just wiped clean, particularly since it had a sign named after the gentleman, and the fact that the sign got lost in the shuffle isn't a sufficient reason now to say, well, let's just replace it. I think we have to be mindful of that, and mindful of the fact that it is Nut Plains Park. And yes, the field is a part of Nut Plains Park, and it had been a softball, baseball field, but it was named after someone who apparently made a lot of contributions to this town. And
Well, just to add some more background information, we went through a similar policy decision, and one of the reasons why we put the policy in place. Just rereading it, obviously the control lies here with the commission, but we named the lacrosse field, correct me if I'm wrong, at Long Hill Park, Ken Mulvey Field.
Right.
Ken Mulvey Field.
Not lacrosse
At Long
field.
Hill.
Not
Right.
lacrosse.
Not Ken Mulvey Park. Now, Ken was also heavily involved with the lacrosse program, as well as being the chairman of this commission for a decade, if not longer. So, and I too have concerns about, do I now see a letter in the Shoreline Times next week from Mr. and Mrs. Depkin or his son or his children that what happened, why'd you forget about my dad, my uncle, whatever. So that's just where I'm going from. I certainly have no problem with the scoreboard. We do have a policy in place, and I think maybe the policy needs to be modified to reflect the fact that you can name a field after it, but not a park. Just a suggestion. I mean, that's another decision, just like we did with Ken Mulvey, so. Melissa?
I agree with Ken. I don't think we should just not change the name on the field. I also don't really think we should have two names on a field either, because that, we can get carried away with that. Then somebody will come around and say, well, I would like you to add a third name to it, and that's really not in our policy right now. So I agree. I don't think that we should do these things unless we change our policy. And I have no problem with the scoreboard. I think that's a fabulous way to go.
Okay, but I'm hearing that the scoreboard was already approved.
Yes.
Okay, and then I think I'm also hearing the fact that we're sensitive to the fact that having the field previously named after someone and then changing it, the repercussions that name
It's
results of
just not
that.
the right thing to do.
So, do I hear any recommendations or motions or?
Can I
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, could I just interject one thing?
Yeah.
I mean, it may not change any of those policy level decisions, but there actually are 2 fields at Nut Plains. There's, we designate one Nut Plains front and Nut Plains rear. So it may not change your decision-making on it in terms of the policy level, but, if we, named the rear part, which is our big lacrosse field, after Bob McHenry, maybe we, Guilford Lacrosse offers to put a sign up in the front field and name the front field with previous names, so there'd actually be a sign on both.
So there's 2 fields there?
There's 2 fields.
I think when it's
That's a great
small.
solution.
What's the problem?
Yeah,
Although the
let me
big
also
field
say,
is where.
That's where-
we never requested to change the name of the park.
Right.
That was never suggested, but I will also say, and maybe this is provided an additional benefit that no one contemplates. One of the reasons we requested this is nobody knew anything about Depkin Field. I mean, there's
Right.
nothing.
Oh, no, we
There's
understand
nothing
that.
to indicate
Right.
it.
understandable.
No,
You
no, we
know, so
understand that.
No.
If it wasn't for a couple of you folks sitting here, that whole thing would have been lost anyway.
Right.
So
Well, actually, we need to thank you for bringing it to our
That-
attention,
and that's
because if
fine.
that was
That-
a named field,
that's
it
fine. And
should
I
be
think,
recognized,
we
and we
raised
should do
enough-
something.
We raised enough money in this process, we could, if you want to do the 2-field thing, we can certainly afford another sign,
So
which
there's,
we would do
Go ahead, Sue.
with some class.
Yeah, I think it's great that it's been surfaced that we have failed. I mean, that we take
Yeah.
ownership, we're accountable for the loss of,
Signage,
yeah, and
recognition.
recognizing that. And I think it's a great suggestion. We have 2 fields, maybe one proposed. and it's fantastic.
yeah, I was
I
just
think
gonna
they're
agree
too
with what Jenny and also Rose had said, that I'm not comfortable taking the name off. And we've made a policy, but we've always used the guidelines of why we've previously ever named a field for really important reasons. So as far as taking the name off, I would not be comfortable doing that. Now that we know that we have 2 fields, the only question I think I would have is when we named the Depkin Field, was one designated versus the other? I know they've changed as far as usage.
There was only
There
one
was only
field
one
that
field
There was
there.
only one there. at the
There was
time.
only
Just-
one
It
there at
precedes
the
me,
time.
but yeah,
So
with the
now
softball
we've
field was
just-
the one that was in the back.
See, that's the issue we talked about with Rick earlier, because I also understand, and I think we've got a great solution here that's been offered up.
Yeah.
And again, my personal opinion, but I knew that other sports were being, that's what I was trying to allude to before, because we do use that front field occasionally for soccer.
Yeah,
Correct?
well, yeah.
So that was the flexibility I was talking about. But Bob, I think that was an excellent suggestion, and lacking any other comment, or, I don't know, do I hear a motion from a member of the
Well,
commission?
Before you get
Yeah,
to that,
Jack.
can the existing plot of land, I won't use the word field, the existing plot of land exclusive of the parking area, can that accommodate 2 sports?
At one time?
Well, there are 2 fields right now.
Just to give full disclosure, I mean, the front field is a smaller field that we use with the younger kids, kindergarten through like 2nd or 3rd grade. Soccer uses it in the fall, I think, and then the big field is for the older kids in the back. So.
The picture that you have, you can't quite tell, but you can see the big field, and then to the upper part of the page, you can sort of see the outline where it says Nut Plains Park. That's sort of the outline of the smaller field. It's adjacent to the parking lot. I was wondering if maybe you have the solution, but I was wondering if it was on the scoreboard, if it said, Bob McHenry Lacrosse Complex or something to that effect, and maybe there's a Depkin Field in the complex or something.
Lacrosse complex sounds broader than
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
established that we definitely have 2 fields. We know that one has previously, or the one existing before, was previously named for Mr. Depkin. So now the solution would be, knowing that we now have 2 fields, we have a chance to name a field that does not have an existing name memorialized to it, so that we keep Mr. Depkin's name, and now this one that has not been named yet has an opportunity to be named. We're not adding another name to one, so that now we've got 2, and potentially you could have 3, so that issue's off the table. we're really naming a separate field, which seems like a viable solution.
Does naming it give exclusive use and sole use of the lacrosse program to that part of the field?
No,
No.
Except during the season?
no, no.
Yeah.
Just standard operating procedure here is each season, Rick sits down with the schedulers and the administrators of all the leagues, and we cut up the pie to where the resources or where the fields are needed to meet the needs of all the youth. At least there's no ownership given with a name.
And if, for instance, soccer were played on that field, there's no reason they couldn't use the scoreboard.
Yeah, I saw that in your memo.
I mean,
yeah.
it's applicable to all, not baseball, basically any sport with timing and periods and.
Yep.
Have you seen the picture of the scoreboard?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go for the third time, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion, I'll make a motion that we.
Make a motion that we name, you guys can do what you
Hayfield.
want with this, with the, whatever wording you want to put on the scoreboard. The major field will be named after Bob. The smaller field will be Depkin Field. We've done some minimum sign work in town where they're not very, very costly, right? And the only thing I would ask is that you consult with Rick on the signs and where they get placed for mowing and maintenance purposes.
And so they're consistent.
Yeah,
And that they're consistent with what we're
previous
trying to do
signs.
throughout.
With the Parks and Recreation
If you see the
logo.
Mulvey
Right.
Field sign,
Yes.
similar. I mean, we have a guy we work with. who
I'll
has the
second
design
Jenny's
for that.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'd just like to-
Excellent suggestion, by the way.
to do one more thing I'd like us to address is that we go ahead and make sure we have another sign put for the other field, the Depkin field.
They're going to do
They
it.
said
going
they
to do
would.
it.
They would be
Did it as
there.
part of it.
Yeah.
Actually, at the last meeting, I had just seen Nut Plains Park for the first time, and it needed a new sign, and we have been working hard to bring our signs into, so we need it's already
It's up,
there?
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we got it,
Very good.
yeah.
So
Trying to
the
be
Park and Rec Commission sign
continuity.
is, Parks and Rec Department sign is already on the Nut Plains sign, so you wouldn't necessarily have to put that on.
I mean, with the logo and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being generous.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it.
As I understand it, this has to actually go before the Board of Selectmen, does it not?
I think for naming, I think in our
On our
policy, we
policy.
can
We've done
name
this
the
for-
memorials.
we've done
and-
it. No, you're right.
We approve
It
the
does.
policy. Once we approve the policy, it doesn't have to go.
No, we
think
have
it
a
does.
policy in place already for naming fields
Mhm.
that this board created, and
Okay.
to
It
my
does,
knowledge,
it
it's
says
never
commission,
been.
its commission will recommend to the Board of
commission.
Selectmen
We
naming
have
of
to go to the
structures,
Board of
fields, and
Selectmen.
parks.
Right.
Recommend, but it's not.
I know those
mandatory.
guys, they're tough.
Personal acquaintances guy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, appreciate it.
Huh? No, there's no doubt about it. Let's get our Boy Scout up here.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Roxy. I'm from Troop 471 in Guilford, Connecticut. I'm a Life Scout. So for my project, I'll go through it. The main objectives of my project, straight out, were to shade the bocce courts at Chittenden Park.
Oh, bless your heart.
To screen the bocce courts from Seaside Avenue, which was a complaint we talked about, and also to work prior to the dedication of the New England Trail, which is being dedicated at the park this June. That was the objective that we were trying to accomplish with the project. So the outline of it, we will be planting 2 to 3 mature trees on the west side of the bocce courts. We will also be planting beach grasses in between the bocce courts and Seaside Avenue. And we will be grading around the bocce courts and planting grass, seeing most of the area around it has become dirt and uneven around there. So the next steps we would have to figure out on the design would be to choose the exact species of the tree, and the exact species of the type of grass, and determine the precise and exact location of where the trees and the grasses will be planted, to confirm that. And for the timeline for it, I presented to my troop committee, the Force One committee, this past week. Presented to you guys tonight. Finish the design of the project by January 15th. And line up the resources and complete the design for complete all of the exact details of the project by February 1st. Have the BSA members and council sign off on it by February 15th. And then I would like to start work on it on March and April. That's obviously weather depending. And then I'd like to finish the project by absolute latest May 1st, because the dedication is obviously June 4th. That's about it.
Aggressive.
Any questions?
What kind of support or help are you looking for from the commission?
The only thing that we might not be able to get completed as a troop is to move the root balls for the trees, which can be rather heavy. So that's everything else I think we could accomplish.
Any?
Oh, and
No small detail.
we're gonna
Minor.
have the Park and Rec sponsor the project.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for some financial support?
Yes.
Have any idea?
For trees and things?
Well, it's only the resources really, the ornamental grasses, obviously the dirt to grade it, and the trees.
Can you give me a
A ballpark?
ballpark number?
I don't, sorry.
Can I comment, Ralph? John Cunningham's been working with us on this. and
Okay.
He's,
Gonna ask,
he's
yeah.
going to go with the grasses that we have at Jacobs to continue the theme.
Mhm.
Terrific.
And I think he's talking about tree lilac, which is also at Jacobs
Okay.
Beach. And so, we can get some prices from him, what that would cost. But he wants to the idea was to carry that theme over.
Perfect.
And if you remember, there were arborvitaes there that were destroyed by
Saltwater.
one of the hurricanes, I think Sandy. And
Yes, they're all gone.
we took them all out because they were dead. And so John, again, carrying the theme from Jacobs that it's tolerant of salt and being under salt water and be those beach grasses. They grow real tall.
Yep.
And you end up having to trim them back some anyway. And that's what I think Colin's looking to do. And John he'll mark out where the best spot to put those trees.
Could we do a not to exceed to? I mean, a rough estimate? I mean, just so I can get a motion and get them
Yeah.
approved and get it started.
It's hard to.
$1,000 too high, 500, 750, give me a number.
How
Not
about
you.
how about if we make a motion, yeah,
Well,
we could make a
Oh.
motion.
Plus or
to-
minus.
The motion.
Up
Well,
to
let's
and
let's
then-
let's say 1,500 or something. Just hopefully be less than
All right,
that.
so-
Just so we have a number.
So let's
Fine.
do that. Let's
Yeah.
make a motion. Let me make it. Oh, please. It's
Again.
the bocce course.
See, somebody's got a preference here.
Not to exceed $1,500.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
hi.
Aye.
On your way, young man. Good luck and
Thank
thank you
you.
very,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Just one
Just
last-
make sure you.
Wait,
Brian, I just have one last question. What's the deadline for having your project done based upon?
Well, if you were here and not outside,
May
you would have heard
1st.
it take.
I'm sorry, I was doing a follow-up with the people from La Crosse. So.
We were looking to completely finish everything by May 1st.
Okay. And that's well before your deadline for Eagle.
For Eagle, yes, that's.
Okay.
That's what he.
I've known people have taken it to the very last
Of course, we're
day,
playing
so-
bocce before then. but-
Just one last question.
John's giving you his personal
I plan to
history.
play bocce, and you think,
Don't do that.
you think your designs will help improve our performance?
I hope so.
Good answer.
Why don't you help them?
Are you going to join my team, Jack?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Nice job.
Thanks, guys.
Ralph, can I just,
Appreciate it.
can I just add, Ralph, and I think, we've had a lot of scouts coming before us, and I think it's remarkable how many kids in Guilford stay to the level to become Eagle Scouts. We got
It's
3
wonderful.
active ones right now. We finished 3 not too long ago. And there's
Yeah.
so many guys, and I think that's a real tribute to you guys and the scout leaders that holds the attention of guys staying till they're like 17, 18 years old and staying involved. And
We're proud
there's
of
so many projects that you guys have helped us out in the community that,
Oh,
boy, it's a lot of things we wouldn't be able to get done if we didn't have the
oh,
scouts.
absolutely.
And we all appreciate it, trust me.
It's amazing what you guys accomplish to the level that you do. It's really
Yeah.
professional work, so, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Have a good holiday, gentlemen.
Are you going to join us for
Bye.
bocce?
Well done,
Is
boy.
that your folder under there?
Okay, any questions on any of the staff and director reports? All right, one more item on the correspondence. Do I have to read this whole thing?
No.
Did everybody read the Hula class memo?
Everybody has it, right?
Okay. Any comments or concerns?
I have no concerns, other than she does.
I don't want to read it out loud.
Oh, no. Yeah, basically, I'll summarize it. Barbara's going to take a quick look at it. There are people who participate in our Hula program, both from in town and out of town. As a result of that program, they do travel around a bit to perform in different locations and different places, and what they've learned and what they like to do. However, it's a program that everybody pays for. We charge additional dollars, as we do for all of our programs, for out-of-towners who take it. We have a request from, I believe it's 3 or 4 out-of-towners who are looking to receive some form of subsidy for not necessarily the classes, but the trips they make to go to perform their various shows in different locations in different towns. So they would like gas money, or what else were they looking for?
Gas money.
Just basically gas money and.
Well, they're actually asking not to have to pay the extra charge of $10.
Okay,
That's all.
so they're asking for 2 things.
No, they're asking for one thing.
One thing.
Oh, either or?
No,
Yeah, they
they
want-
just don't want to pay
By
the
don't
not
wanna
paying
pay
the
the
10, it could
non-resident
go
fee.
towards their gas.
Each
just-
volunteer not living in Guilford who attends the various performances pays the fee for the class, the extra charge of $10, and the cost of gas to drive to the venue where they're entertaining.
wrong.
So they're just saying, they're not asking for gas money, they're just saying, can we waive the $10 since they spend their own money going out to do the performances above and beyond the classes?
Okay.
But the standard policy, though, is that we charge out-of-town residents
For the
an
class.
additional fee
Yep.
as compared to a town resident.
Correct.
And they're asking for an exception to that policy.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
The-
yeah, so I want to
It's
clarify.
a very
that there's
confusing
another-
letter.
Right, because there's a $40, they pay an extra $40, it says? And I
No.
wasn't.
That would be,
Okay.
I think she was talking about if they
Four
take it
sessions.
4 seasons, it's,
4 sessions.
yeah, 4 sessions. You know, it's
Full
$15. Yeah, so then those, they'd be paying $40 more a year,
Over the
$10
course
per
of the
session.
year.
So it meets 4
And
seasons.
so when you say per session, they're not meaning weekly
No,
$10
per,
every week.
no, 12, per
What
season.
For
Fall,
10,
winter,
okay,
spring.
Got it.
The class itself costs 10, and they pay 15, and they pay 15 plus 10?
Yes.
Correct, they pay 25.
Well,
Just like the conversation about Terry earlier, that the non-resident fee is $10 more.
Yes, but if you have a $75 yoga class, for example, then you still only pay $10. The proportional increase is huge here.
Yeah, well, but it's always been, it's $10, you know, I mean, we don't, it's not a proportion thing, it's just, it's just been this policy the commission's had, it's for a non-resident, for whatever the program is, it's $10 more.
They're non-residents, and they don't want to pay the non-resident fee.
And the non-resident fee pays for what, our tax dollars pay for lights, heat, custodial in the building here. So non-residents pay more because they're not paying that through their taxes. And so the program fee for non-residents for all of our programs is more than it is for residents.
But we have a lot of classes for a lot of different reasons, we have various classes, and we always, non-residents pay that additional fee.
Yes.
So why would this be different than this? I guess.
I think her argument, the difference is that they also, then they go out and they perform, which I don't know if it's a requirement of the class, I don't really know, but they go and they perform in different places, and I think, I don't know if she gave the list of places, I have it here somewhere, but they go to a lot of different, like nursing homes and other senior centers, and they do a performance, and so,
So they give back as a result of taking the class, and they're asking us to waive the $10.
right.
Correct.
But the residents who take the class give back too, because they're also doing,
Right,
you know,
sure.
but there's no different,
But
Sure,
they're
but the
taking
fact that they
discount.
give back really isn't relevant to our policy of charging people from out of town.
right.
All right, I'm going to weigh in and say that I'm not comfortable making that
Exception.
exception, because we have so many classes that people, non-resident, have to pay, and if you do it one, then I
Right.
think it's
Well,
going
it'll
to
be the ripple
snowball
effect. You got
into
kayak rental, you got
a
everything
lot
involved
of
in it.
gray areas that
Beach
I don't
pass.
think we want to get
Beach pass.
involved in.
And one of the things everybody here knows, and I've been very anal about it, is we have a process in place.
Right.
And we've pushed to document how we do things. And now we're gonna start to make an exception. The minute that we do something like that, it's gonna get out again. So unless we decide to change the policy, my suggestion would be, it is what it is.
I think we might add to that, ask Rick to respond for the commission and say, you know, what Ralph just said, that we're not able to make an exception in this case, given how many classes and given our set policy. However, we so appreciate that they have used the class they've taken to go and perform and do
Absolutely.
such volunteer work.
And do
It's
we
commendable.
have any kind of scholarship money in place if there, for some reason someone were to find this?
Camp, only camp, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we kind of do,
But I think the
if somebody's a
policy
hardship
needs to
for
be
like even
outlined,
gymnastics,
yeah.
so we might,
I
you
think
know,
we're
help
getting
out.
into a gray area.
Yeah.
I don't think we will.
I move that we uphold our policy of charging $10 for out-of-town residents who enroll in classes.
Second?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I
Motion
will
carried.
abstain.
There was an abstention.
Yes, one abstention.
So upholding the policy with the non-resident fee?
Right,
At the non-resident.
but commending them for the,
Yeah.
you know, extensive volunteer work.
Yeah.
Item number 5, bills, because,
No.
I'm sorry, approval of minutes. Or,
Oh, can I add, I don't know if you guys all had this in your packet, but it shouldn't have been in there. There was alcohol in the park.
Yeah.
That was the last
That-
month.
That was last month. I don't know how
Yeah.
it got in this one. I told you.
that's why I didn't bring it up. We
Yeah.
talked about that.
Okay, so, you
Been
know,
there, done
it
that.
shouldn't have been in there.
Item 4, approval of minutes. Do I hear any changes?
I move that we approve the minutes as read.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Those who are not here obviously abstain.
Yeah, here it is, right here. From
Approval of bills.
This one that was already read into the
What's our
correspondence.
total amount, Rick?
Okay, it's the, I think Bonnie, don't go by this one. Bonnie, just include this is the month of
Yeah, the
October.
one little summary sheet here, right?
Yeah, so it's the bottom line here,
I like that better.
94,587.06.
Yeah, do I hear a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $94,587.06?
So move.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carried. Old business. Standing Fields Committee.
Just, you know, the high school baseball field, they've been working on monitoring that, and the entire outfield was sodded, and largely because of a lot of input from the field committee, going to the building committee meeting and suggesting that it really got this beautiful new infield and backstop and, you know, fence around and all that, and the outfield was in not good shape, a lot of clover and weeds and so on, and
Holes.
yeah, it was uneven ground, so they graded it all and installed sod. So it's a very nice field and should be playable in the spring.
Silly question, but there's irrigation under
There
this
is.
field? Okay.
Yep.
I would hate to think we go through all this effort and not irrigate it.
Yeah, it is. That was winterized, I think, a week or so ago.
Rick, which of the baseball teams will use Long Hill Park?
Freshman baseball and junior legion baseball and Guilford baseball in general, 13
Like
to
Babe Ruth
15.
age, yeah.
Now, will the high school field be available to other youth teams, or is it?
Legion, junior legion and senior legion play on that field, as well
Okay.
as the high school, JV, and varsity.
Okay, who sets the schedule for availability of the field? Does that come from Rick's department, or is that?
High
come-
school owns that field. It's
So
their
high school
field.
sets the field? Okay.
But for the recreational sports,
It's scheduled through
it's
us.
scheduled through Rick and I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only other field committee issue is that they did a walk in November of all the fields, and many of the items that were cited there, we've already taken care of. Like a lot of goal mouth areas we saw had to be resodded. That's what I was mentioning earlier. We did that a couple of weeks ago, or Saturdays ago, and cut out the sod, and then we resodded last Monday and Tuesday. So we took care of a lot of the items that were on the list.
Kickers Beach project, I was down there
Yeah.
last Sunday, moving
was-
along.
I was there this morning. I spoke to the workers this morning. It looks phenomenal, it really looks great, and you can really see now that it's level with the ground,
Yeah.
how the actual decking is gonna look when it's finished, because before it was, lower down.
They brought the
You couldn't
stone
really
in
see.
there.
Now they've brought the stone
Yeah.
in. I guess you met on the 20th of November and had a meeting.
We all met with I was away.
At that
but no,
point, they were a week behind.
Right.
And, the weather's been great, so that, going beyond that initial mid-December date has not been an issue. So they're just gonna keep going. But it looks great, and they should be starting that top, was it the decking they call it?
Yeah, they have it. They have the wood.
It's coming along,
Yeah.
and knock on wood, we have good weather, they just keep plowing it.
So just refresh my memory, it's, the decking is going to go from the start of the tall grass to the beach, is that correct? It's not going to actually interfere with the playing field of the Chittenden field, is that
It's
correct?
not
Wait, no,
Chittenden.
this one's the
it's
Jacobs Beach.
Jacobs
Beach,
Beach.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jacobs
I
Chittenden's
thought I
next.
heard you say Chittenden, that's my
Yeah,
mistake,
that's
okay.
okay.
And
Yeah, but if you have a
no,
chance,
your
go down,
answer
you
is
really can see now that it is level with the ground, how it plays out around the bathhouse, and back down to the, along the beach area, and then back to the playground area. It's gonna be awesome.
Already is.
Yeah.
Chittenden Park Boardwalk, C. Rick?
That's my question. Let me repeat myself.
What was your question? Want me to say something first? or you
No,
want-
it's not going to interfere with the ballpark.
No, it's not.
Going around the edge.
It's around the edge. I just could not recall how that final
Yeah.
looked, and I haven't been there since.
So, in fact, if you want to, after, I have the
Schematic?
blueprint, schematic, yeah, I can show you what it's going to look like. Very briefly, what we're waiting for right now is DEP approvals, and they advertise at New Haven Register November 22nd. People have until January 1st for public comment on it. I don't think they're expecting any public comment, but it's got to go through the process, and then they do their approvals after that. So we're just waiting on that at this point.
Great.
Okay. Town's 375th anniversary celebration. I know that Sue is at a meeting tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been out ill, so I haven't gone to any of the meetings.
Okay, the only thing I'm wondering is, what's the expected time frame? Oh, I'm sorry,
No.
for the New Year's Eve celebration? I mean, the kickoff on New
I
Year's Eve.
think it's like 1 to 8, I believe, or 1 to
8, I
6,
think.
7:30?
12 noon time? to
Okay,
eight
in here
PM?
it's 1 o'clock, because we have the lunch, but yeah,
And here?
here it begins at 1.
The green.
The green.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure, because.
I think we just got the wristbands today, I think.
Because my wife was right, I said, gotta take her off.
We're one of the places where people can buy wristbands. I think I just saw in my office when I went down between meetings that there's a bunch sitting on my desk, so I believe they just came in, yeah, so we now have them. People can buy wristbands here and pages, Paul? And bishops.
And having the wristband does what, so people will know?
Paul's on the committee, can you,
The wristbands would be naturally the key to get into any of the events that are happening, going.
and there's a fee for that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Eagle Scout projects, we already went through Chittenden Park. Anything else on the bleacher repair?
No, just where they're, they've been approved, we're just waiting for the guys who work on them.
Didn't we talk about this already?
Yeah.
The Lake Quannapoga weeds?
We did.
We
Yeah,
did our
talked about
budget
it as a
meeting.
part of the budget.
Yeah.
It was part of the budget meeting.
Huh? Maybe you want to.
We haven't here, yeah, just, so there were 2 different studies being done. Jim Porley is doing a study on what can be done with the dam there, and Greg Bugby, who's with the Agricultural Experimental Station and a Guilford resident, is working on, it's called bathymetry. I guess it's like the underwater topography of the lake. He has, in fact, he sent me an email. In between our meetings, I saw it came up on my computer. I haven't seen it yet, but he told me that ideally, if we can drain down optimally 9 feet, we can do a long way to help control the weeds. And I talked to Jim Porley today, and based on his study, he thinks we might be able to get 10 feet. So there's a really good chance that we can have a major impact on the weed issue there.
Not only the weeds. some critters also, right?
Well, the leeches, yeah, right. The
They don't wanna
leeches
use
that are,
the word on TV.
yeah. Well, we're gonna get rid of those.
That's the word.
They probably live in the weeds.
Yeah, exactly. And so there are definitely going to be some environmental discussions about it. And Greg Buggy's been in communication with some of the folks at DEP, and he, excuse me, going to work on setting up a meeting probably in January, February on that. There's going to be a cost to do it. The DEP, the state owns the lake, but the town owns the dam. And I have no idea what the cost, I mean, Jim's going to work on that, but how is that all going to get funded? So it may be all possible to make it happen, but where to get the money to make it happen? And so I think that, Jim and Greg are working sort of separately, but in tandem. We need both of their studies to make things happen. And so Greg will coordinate the DEEP part of it. And then, there may be some environmental issues, as I said, with some of the plants that are in the lake there. But that has to get worked through, I think. And at least we know that structurally, potentially, we can drain it down well enough to really help with getting rid of some of those weeds. So the next is, how do you fund it? So
that's
it's
an
moving
ongoing
along.
discussion for next
Yeah.
month and thereafter. Okay.
And, I don't know, you want to summarize anything about what we just went through prior to the meeting, the 2014-15 operating budget? I think we're done. We've accounted for all those items in one way or another. And I think under 7 new business, we moved item A up, so unless I'm missing something other than, and we talked about this already, Barbara, right? Yeah, we
Do we
talked
want to
about
talk
that as
about snow
well.
removal?
Okay, well,
Do we want to discuss the snow removal, how we're going to handle that?
Yeah.
Just bring that up.
Okay, sure.
So Jenny, you and John, it was before that when we had our budget discussion, we may have an issue with snow removal. We have 4 full-time guys. 2 of them have to have surgery. And depending on when that gets scheduled, right now, one of them is scheduled end of December, the other one early January. And the third guy, his wife is due to have a baby January 2nd. He'll be out for 2 weeks when that happens. We may be down to 1 full-time guy during several weeks anyway, when we could get any snow. And so we're working on trying to develop a plan how we're going to handle this, because if we have 1 guy, there's no way he can take care of all the snow in town. I am interviewing on Wednesday a guy who's a seasonal guy who's interested in helping us out. And I heard of maybe 1 more, but they're going to be brand new. They're not going to be able to do plowing, and our 3 guys who are all going to be out are 3 guys who plow. That affects Public Works, and normally when we finish doing the town parking lots, 3 of our guys then go help Public Works on the roads, and so they're not going to have those 3 guys. We're not going to have them. So I guess we just pray for no snow
We're all
during that
just
period of
trapped in
time.
Guilford for the winter.
That pretty much was discussed.
Last year, repeat.
Yeah, so we're going to work at set up a meeting with all the appropriate people from the police department, fire department, Public Works. I already made some initial calls to try to get that set up. It's really beyond our responsibility. We're just trying to think ahead that, hey, this is going to affect all of us. And so how does the police department parking lot get plowed out if I don't have guys to do it? Can the fire department help? Because they have some guys to do some plowing too. So we're hoping that the Board of Selectmen will help us call a meeting of all the appropriate parties to get this resolved like really soon, because we want to do this
Yeah.
before we get snow.
What we've asked Rick to do prior to this was to formally document his concerns, what we know is going on with our staff, and the issues that happen to coincide with some people from Public Works being also out. So,
It's a
that
potential huge
it's a huge issue here that we as a department or a commission can't solve. It's got to be between the police, the fire, Public Works, Park and Rec, and whomever else to,
Some temporary hires. we need to be able to
absolutely.
have some, yeah.
And we all know about
It's a huge
that issue,
issue.
so.
And we're gonna have to submit a formal timeline of all the absenteeisms,
Right.
so that they know
Yeah.
when that
Right.
time will be down.
When is the first, I mean,
I know.
and we have snows that could be coming like.
Now.
Yes, so what are the,
Well, the first scheduled surgery is December 23rd, so I mean, he's here until then.
okay. That's 2
He'll be
weeks
out
away.
for, I think, at least minimum 3 weeks to a month, that individual. The other one was scheduled January 2nd. He went home today with some, he's in emergency room. So that surgery may happen
Sorry to hear
sooner.
that.
And if it does, then maybe he'll be back in January.
Wow.
And the other one, is whenever his wife has the baby, and she's due January 2nd, and he was planning on taking 2 weeks off. Now, knowing him, if we have an emergency, and, he may come in and help us out, but he really needs to, he has the right to take some time off to be with his newborn
Certainly,
and
of course.
help his wife, too,
Of
so
of course.
I don't want to have to beg him to come in. 'cause
So
I-
we need,
The
we have
essence
a
of-
big,
We
this
have
ASAP.
huge
This is
potential
pressing.
problem.
Yeah, that's why I
that
wanted
at
to
any
get the
given
letter
time-
and get it to the selectman's
Yeah.
office. There's been some issues with, Joe being out
Yeah,
and
right.
Charlie, and I just don't know that the focus is on how concerned we are as a department, and
It's our obligation to bring this
So he's
issue
gonna write a letter.
to light, because it is a potential problem that we really
suggesting
have
that they all get
a
together.
major impact on a lot of different facilities.
Safety.
And safety, and it needs to get
Can't
dealt
be
with.
an emergency shelter if you can't get in it.
The essence, the
police
essence
and
is to
fire.
bump it up and say, look to the leadership of the town, we need
Correct.
help in resolving this problem, and we need to have a resolution soon
Pressing.
because we are
Yeah,
into winter.
It's pressing.
Because it's beyond our department, because it
Right, no,
affects other
clearly,
departments,
yeah,
too.
exactly.
It's multiple
Right.
departments that need to,
Right.
it has to be a shared input to come up with a plan that's a solution that's
Mm-hmm.
effective immediately.
Mhm. Right.
All right.
You
Well,
win, Ralph.
hopefully 2 weeks that can be solved.
yeah.
Because it sounds like that's our
Piece of cake.
timeline, 2 weeks.
Well, they have a contingency fund, they may have to use it for things that they weren't planning on, but,
Well said.
kept it under an hour.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 7:26 PM.
It's not over till you.